Ding.
This meeting is being recorded.
Jesus Christ. All right. All right. So we're ready to go. So let me make sure I give you the permission to share screen. There you go. It should be. Yeah, it should be good to go. So welcome to our 41st Goal Strategy Workshop. Here we go. Ding.
This isn't going to be nearly as complex as what you typically have.
Well, we should tell you, we're going to focus on single strategy this time. So
exactly.
it's going to be a little more gritty, I guess. Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah. So I like to look at a lot of stuff, left to right, the way I read stuff.
Sure.
We'll do the quick, obviously we know we're going to mark off 29-28. And in typical fashion, you see that they had that in iron already, so we don't get an extra.
Right. I saw that and was like, oh man.
Yeah, I'm always disappointed when one of the first two, but it seems to happen with pretty good consistency. And I always like to go back to when, again, that really doesn't help us this cycle, does this? 26s probably wasn't going to come up soon anyway.
Right, yeah.
So we didn't get much help. So we go over here.
And what is all this?
So this, I like to look at each Fed with everything kind of listed out. And the reason I like to look at this is it gives me a good visual of what's left in the cycle.
Okay.
Typically, when this is thinned out a little more, again, they've already used the gold one in iron, and we had a double drop in steel, so not much has been eliminated. But you'll see often when this is down to like there could be 4 options over here, they're not going to take the one that's going to cut you over half. Not a lot of help for us though. I'd be surprised if we see one of the 29s, 27s or 26s go, just because that's pretty strong across. But that's not a guarantee. We'll look at a few other things to make sure.
Okay.
But looking at this and seeing Diamond had a 27-26 previously, that's going to be marked off, and a 28-26 in bronze. Just the quick glance at this, I like being down here somewhere.
And 27's dropped in Jade, right? Last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's...
again, it's already,
Have they ever done a thing where they've done the whole cycle's been like the previous cycles drops? Like this one, we had gold 29s in iron and 27s in steel. So just, if that ever happened where they took a cycle and just repeatedly one round after the other, was like that.
I know they did the first 4 of a previous cycle.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember who. Somebody used to look at that every cycle and tell me about it.
Okay.
But I don't think there's ever been like a full 1 through 6 that's happened in a previous. Some people try to catch that as a trend, but there's gonna be 2 or 3 that are gonna be the same eventually because there's only so many options. But
right. Okay.
I don't think it's anything you could ever try to solve and go back to. All right. So I will say these up here. So there's 352 options in gold, 288 in diamond, 288 in bronze, and 352 in jade. Those are really high.
Is that higher than normal?
Yeah.
Like, is that?
Yeah. So you'll see a huge variance in these depending on if the hole 25 is at a 30 and if hole 90 is a 45. Because if 90 is a 44 or 43, that literally cuts our options in half.
Okay.
And same thing up here, you're likely cutting up to 6 or 8 of your options up here.
Okay.
So these will cut down drastically to where you could enter gold. If we cut in half plus a little more, like a 130 or 140.
Okay.
So realistically, if you've got 6 singles in the BRL, you you've got like a 4% chance of a 501. You know? It's actually, that's the thing, it's calculable. And,
Yeah. All right.
All right. So that's kind of the quick view. I like it to be down here a little bit. Then we're going to go over here. And again, I just like to read left to right. So this is what gold hit. And you see it goes back a few years. And the reason I like to look at this is you can kind of start to understand, you know, we mark off last cycle, we mark off 2 cycles ago.
Mm-hmm.
You get a pretty good picture that it's often, most of these don't hit even like 3 or 4. Like we'll look at the 29, 28s. It went 10 cycles, it went 7, then it went 3, then it went 7.
Okay.
Judging by that, I'm probably not going to take it in spring. I'm not, well, this year it's actually switched, isn't it? This is May and then spring.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not going to
That's-
take it in May, spring, or June, most likely, just because of that. Could it hit? Yes. Likely we won't see that happening in the next few. You kind of read down through here, look at them all. This one obviously is due.
Right. And you obviously would say, oh, 27s would be due if not for the fact that it's dropped.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. There's a couple of guys in the game every so often. I'll explain to them the whole idea about like, if something just drops in iron and steel, don't use them. And
Mhm.
one guy in particular used to always be like, oh, hey, thanks for telling me that. And then he'll be like a day later, I sent my stuff in. I'm like, oh, what'd you drop? He's like, 27s.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. They don't. He's like, oh no, it'll be okay.
Yeah. Then he'll say something like, "Oh, well, nobody will see it coming if it hits." It's,
They dropped the both 30s. I'll already be ready for it. No.
right.
This is a good chart. And again, I always say to players, you know, like different ways to look at this. Like I track this, but I track it just for pure number. But this is a lot
Mhm.
better visually because it gives you a better feel of like just how much time has passed. I mean,
Yeah.
outside of me saying like, okay, yeah, 27 has been a long time, but you know, the 29, 26, 13 cycles,
Mhm.
that's a good chunk of time, but it doesn't always mean that's going to drop. I think that's one thing that happens too, is you get into the idea of like, well, I'll play them oldest drop and just roll the dice. You can do that, but it's not a guarantee they're going to go every time the longest
Right.
duration.
Yeah. Because I mean, you could literally be going. Let's see. So 7. Yeah, you would have been playing like 27s or 29, 26, 4 or 5 cycles in a row of failure.
Mhm.
I don't think you're going to rely on that.
Right.
It's mainly, it's a good way to cut off the few that are least likely.
Right. And I think
But you can't
that's an
always rely
important,
on it the other way.
that's an important thing to look about too, is I always say, don't worry about so much like figuring out the exact drop, but if you can kind of in your head, at least convince yourself these drops are the ones who I'm not worried about, that helps as well. Now, when you look at this, do you look at like from a standpoint of like when you talked about earlier about 29, 28, and you're saying how, okay, well, it was like 10 cycles and 7 cycles and 3, then 7. Do you look at the longevity as a factor, or do you just kind of, as a random thing?
I try to gauge, so this is 41 cycles.
Mhm.
So I try to gauge kind of the frequency. Like 29, 27, you see it's interesting that it has a short, a long, and then a couple shorts, and then a 7, and then a 7. I'm almost inclined to see that it's not went past 7. I kind of put that as an option.
Talking ourselves back into a drop.
All right. Well, we're going to go down here. Let's look at the ones I talked about from the other way. That's the thing. Like,
Sorry.
you talk to 10 people, they're going to tell you 10 different ways, and each one of them is probably going to be right some of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be which one you like.
Right.
27, 26, they went 9, they went 6, they went 4, they went 4. Could be. I'm not too crazy about that at that point, though.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna mark it yet. 28, 26, so 3, 9, 9, 10, 3. That's not looking too good for me there either. Could be for a short one, maybe. They've been pretty consistent about it not being
Mhm.
used. 28, 27, 5, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 2.
Mm.
Probably not going to go on 2, but won't be surprised if that pops up again in one of the next couple at that rate. But I don't like it in this one. Now, it's the other one. It's something that a lot of people, especially after still, you see that it hasn't went 2 cycles in a row. Some people will literally start in iron and just go with that until it hits, because it is going to hit this cycle. It's incredibly rare. I'm looking back through, you might find like 1 or 2 times that a drop that's not a double drop has went 3 cycles in a row.
Mhm.
So you know somewhere in the next 4 feds there will be a 28, 27. If not, then that's the IWA doing something very unique.
Okay.
Yeah, right there's
Damn you, Johnny B.
yeah, like right here's one. This was 4 years ago. I'm not seeing one anywhere else. So yeah, it's wouldn't be a bad idea to start taking 28, 27 in gold until it hits. You're probably going to miss a fed or 2,
Right.
but it has a chance. I kind of don't like that the last time it hit was in gold.
Yeah.
So I'm probably skipping that in this one, but it's going to be really tempting in diamond.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to mark it off. Again, wouldn't be surprised if it hit, but just doesn't feel right there.
Mm-hmm.
28, 28. You missed the 1 cycle you should have taken it. And
I know, right?
you're going to have to wait another 3 years, I think.
PTSD.
So, it's due in 2024.
I'll tell you a little side story about that. For the Von Schnapps for like, I want to say 4 years in CWL, they just always had the 28s as they were going to use them. And for a long time, gold had 28, 26 as a very common drop. So they often hit with that and it really helped them out. And I just like set it and forget it because I have it used to have it be that like when I put in the hold results, the next set of holds automatically populated with what the values were based on that. So I just never really worried about it. And then of course they stopped doing that. And it was like, oh well. All right. So we're down to 4 right now.
Yeah. Just scanning through, like I said, that 29, 26 looks like it's got to happen pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
13's a lot. As you saw, there's very few that get that far. Again, if it's not a double drop. Because realistically, Fed should average like 2 of each of the double drops per year at most. Some only get 1, so it's a little surprising how often people hit on those, because that means they're probably using them pretty often. And
there are some players.
Bad. Yeah.
There are some players who tell me they use double drops all the time, and
yeah. Like when you miss, you can miss terribly though.
Right. That's why, like, you have a tag wrestler, for instance. And I was telling people last time, like when you're picking your opponents, if you're looking at the wrestlers ranked and there's a guy with a tag strategy and he's a tag champion, definitely challenge them as a singles wrestler. You know, you're going to back end have a better 5 on them.
Yeah.
So it can be strategic that way, but I think that doubles aren't bad. It's just I wouldn't go with it all the time. I just think it's too risky.
See, this is the tough part, because looking at this, I feel like it's going to be one of the 29, 27s or 29, 26. So then I've essentially got myself in a spot where I've got to.
Mm-hmm. My power just flickered, but we're still here, so that's good. Did I lose you? No, you still there? You hear me okay? Oh. Can you hear me okay? No?